Welcome to Gray Overload. I'm Anthony, and to continue this Outlook series, I want to take a look at what Intel and what I expect them to do in 2020. We've already taken a look at AMD and Nvidia, and today I just want to focus on Intel and what I kind of see their outlook being for 2020. And we'll start out with the GPU side of things because I think that's where Intel is really trying to break into, and it's really interesting to see how they're going to do it. We've already seen DG1 at CES, their first iteration of a discrete graphics card, and they're really focusing, I think, on that mobile spec for right now. That's an easy market for them to get into. That's a big stronghold for them, right? They're trying to take the whole system and be an Intel system rather than it going to and having an Intel CPU and an Nvidia GPU. They really want to comprise it down and be their own 100% system. They're going to get in some more fight from AMD, and Nvidia is going to have to still kind of take out their own niche. And I think Intel sees this as a great way into it and a great way to take it over. And that's what I see them trying to lay down the groundwork for this year. Now, I don't expect this really to hit until the second half, and for new designs to kind of have it in the second half. If it, I would even say maybe late second half of this year. And so Nvidia has some time, maybe make up some ground, maybe even get a better product out that can kind of compete, or I would say even squash Intel's little entry into here, because once Intel gets a stronghold, remember Intel, we just saw their quarter end and they made a lot of money. They have a lot of revenue to deal, or that they have to deal with and split it up, and then they also have profit. And if they can kind of go and push that forward into areas to kind of, hey, you know, you're an OEM, you want to build with us, you like our products, here's some design stuff that we'd like you to do, but you have to use our products, that could put a really foothold on what Nvidia has and kind of push them right out of the market, kick them off to the side. AMD now with their new Ryzen 4000 mobile GPUs, I do expect a lot more from them. I expect them to go forward and enhance what they have, but Intel right now has a stranglehold. I see Intel actually having a stranglehold for a little while until AMD can kind of break through the markets. I think especially with server and mobile, it takes a while for them to break through. I think it's going to take years before it's a really, tough breakthrough. But I think Intel can actually go through later this year and start squashing some of the relationships that Nvidia has created up over the years, and make that go off into another scenario of, let's use our GPU. We can then control this and control the powerhouse dynamically adjust. You can get better battery life and really sell some of the benefits. I think Nvidia is going to have to counter that as well. I kind of mentioned that into the other video. I do expect some more information about a discrete, mid to upper mid, someplace in there, not high end range. I do not expect a high end range. But I expect information later this year on what they're going to be getting into. I really see their desktop graphics card coming out next year in 2021. I could be proven wrong. They could have it out this year, but from what I just see how Intel's going to lay this out, it would be more 2021 for that. I would even see them actually getting accomplished. I would expect that to be a mid-range something. They might be a little bit aggressive to try to, again, squash out Nvidia and, to squash out AMD. They want as much of this pie as possible, and they're going to, if we've seen anything from Intel in the past and how their business practices are, they're going to make sure that they get it. Now, on the desktop side of things, in their processor side, I think they're taking a step back. They're going to come out with a 10 series, and it's not going to be a home run. It's just going to be another iteration. They're trying to stem off some of AMD's push with their 3000 series and try to get a little lime in the spotlight. I expected actually a 10,000 series to be out a little bit earlier. And now kind of what I'm feeling is that Intel, instead of trying to compete directly with the Ryzen 3000 series, they're delaying it to kind of have their own spotlight. I think what they're trying to do is let some of the hype around Ryzen 3000 die down, release their 10 series, hopefully get some of that money back into their pockets. I bet you they'll come down with prices, especially in the low end, a little bit lower than they are now, try to really squash out AMD's low end. But I mean, some of these prices, what they have an $85 1600 right now, so what, 6 cores for $85, I think it is. That's a steal. I think AMD, even with some of their old processors, can really still compete with some of the Intel stuff. But Intel's going to want to drop that down, so they have some of that market as well. I think Intel's going to be on the desktop side, going to be looking for any money they can get, and they're going to price appropriately in those sectors. I think that their high-end products though are still going to be kind of priced high. They still want to have, look at it as that they are the flagship. They don't want that down there, but their i3s and lower, I can see them coming in with very price competitive to try to steal some of that mind share AMD has in that section of the market. Will it work? I don't think so. I think Intel's just biding time as much as they can until they can get their next generation out with that new architecture and everything else that they've been working on, and really get that out. And I think that is going to be in 2021. I don't see them really pushing anything up in a 2020 here that I've been hearing. I think a lot of the stuff is going to be in 2021. I think that they're still dealing with some manufacturing process issues and really deciding what direction they want to go, right? We have a financial guy running Intel now, and I think that there's going to be a lot of more difficult decisions going forward where they want to go, how foundries are going to operate. Are they going to be more open to using third-party foundries, etc.? And they're willing to cut areas and not focus on areas as long as it means that they have more money in their pocket, right? Financial is not about what's going to be most innovative or best for the future. Is going to be what is most dollar amount for that future, and they're going to be more focused on that than a lot of other areas going forward. And Charlie at Summary Accurate has done great documentation of this as well, so go check him out. He does a great job in all sectors and keeping track of a lot of stuff that comes out from all these companies or that doesn't come out, and he's really good at finding it. And so that's just some of my feelings on where Intel's in the desktop. I think it's 2021 really when they come out with that new one that everyone's looking for to really, make this market up and competitive and really show that they, are committed to the desktop market. I don't think that they're really committed to the desktop market. The desktop market is a side market for them. It's really mobile, and it is really server. That's the two money makers for them, and they want to be in those areas as much as possible, and desktop can come along for the ride. And that's just my feeling right now. HEDT on the desktop side, Intel's just taking a break, saying we have an 18 core and we'll think about what else we can do to try to compete with AMD right now. If I was them, I would actually sit out. I don't see Intel doing that. Intel has a little bit of pride that they want to still think that they're the best in every level. So I can see them doing something outrageous and maybe, getting a 400 watt CPU or something just to come down and say, hey, we have the best. Not something you can cool or even deal with, but we have the best if you want to buy it, or if you can even find it. So I think Intel is just, Intel, you just got to take a step back on HEDT, redesign stuff, and really come out with a product that's able to compete with AMD, if not beat it, in 2021, 2022, and really show us what you got, right? Focus on the basics and get out a product that we really like. Same with mobile here. Let's jump right into mobile and the mobile CPU side. I talked a little bit about the GPU side, and I think the GPU side is where they really want to kind of put the stranglehold on it. But they are going to try, I think they're going to try to push some of these new 10 nanometer CPUs here, and we're going to see how they perform to see if they can get their yields up to even get out where they need to be. There's a lot of people are 6-core laptops and stuff that Intel's come out. Now they do hit the power quite hard overall since, they're quad cores, but they still perform quite well. And where can that 10 nanometer sit that doesn't seem to have all the cores yet that the 14 nanometer chip does have? But overall, Intel has a stranglehold on this. They're doing well. I think Intel's really focused on, though, the ARM side of things. They have that high horsepower right now. AMD still has to get their designs out, and all these manufacturers have to get it out. So they got some time there. But where's ARM going to sit, and how many companies are going to be jumping on the ARM? Surface Pro X is already out, and I think that there's more movement there of what ARM can do, especially with Snapdragon and everything else and being designed to get in Windows on ARM and get that up and running. Now, there's certain products like that, their Foveros that they have, the 3D stacking and everything else, that I think is a next generation product. And I'm a little concerned they might not be able to get this out when I was hoping like Q4 they'd get this out and we'd be able to see like the Microsoft Neo and the Duo in action, and because I think they're going to be running, if I recall, they're going to be running this Intel like Foveros platform or some sort of subset of it, and that I was really excited to see that. I think this is a great platform that Intel has and has been developing here. They just need to cash in on it, and I don't know if it's going to be this year. Maybe it goes into Q1 of next year, first half at some point. I was really hoping to get out sooner. I think it was a great, exciting product for me as a user. I'd love to be able to see this product, be able to see if I can even put it into my workflow, but I just don't have 100% confidence in Intel going to be able to get it out on time or as early as they should get it out. On the server side, I think Intel is going to be able to still sell quite a bit of CPUs on that side, right? They just got this huge market, but with all the flaws and everything else, people still just trying to get stuff done. I think a lot of server guys, from what I'm hearing when I talk to people in the server industry, is they were kind of caught off guard a lot with all the flaws, and as more flaws get turned up and everything else, there's a lot of hardware that they weren't expecting to turn over as fast, and they needed a little bit more time before really, you could go to Epic or anything else, right? It takes time for all these CPUs to be tested, so they really had to just keep placing orders, and that's why a lot of these foundries for Intel are still booked. Is you gotta fill in the compute power you have. If it goes down for some odd reason, you still need to fill it, and if you're expanding at a certain rate, you still need to fill that too. I think there's a lot of influx here. I do expect probably a little bit of dip here. For the most part, Intel wants to stay up and have those high margins. They make a lot of money in the server section. They also have FPGAs, everything else. And I think that they're going to still try to sell a whole ecosystem of what they're able to do. I think some buyers are still going to go for that whole entire ecosystem. You can get everything from Intel, your SSDs, your FPGAs, all that stuff. The graphics card now you're going to be able to get at some point, probably, I would say even this graphics card, I would even, if it's like an MCM for all that calculation and they can get that rounded out, I say early 2021, maybe even late. Someplace in 2021, but get that set up so that they can actually go forward and say, hey, guess what? You can get the whole entire platform, CPU, FPGA, everything right from us. Now, what Intel did recently with the 9200 series and making like a 400 watt processor, no, Intel, get away from that. Focus on what you can do well, and don't try to make AMD the thing you're trying to target. Make it what you can do well and what you can market well, rather than saying, hey, we can beat the 64 core too. Yeah, we just have to use all the power you can supply. Come on, Intel, let's get down there. We'll see about what, and when we jump now, I have game consoles in here, because game console is not one thing Intel's in. Right now, what Nvidia's got the Switch, and then PlayStation and Xbox looks like they're going to be all AMD. So what Intel really has here for game consoles, they really got the computer. They got to make sure that they're nailing it, and the big thing is, I think, graphics. They got to make sure that they're hitting on graphics on all cylinders. One thing is too is if Nvidia has ray tracing, let's say the 3000 series has a ray tracing and it operates really well. AMD's RDNA 2 has ray tracing. The console games start having ray tracing, and it starts being a thing. That's one thing I feel like once AMD and Nvidia have it, like I don't feel like it's a big thing right now. I still think it's in flux. But if consoles, AMD, Nvidia all have it, that's something that Intel's going to have to look at and make sure that they're competing at, because it could be another thing holding them back, especially in a mid-range GPU in a market that could get really crowded really fast. That's something I really hope that Intel jumps into and acknowledges the major features that they need to have, get a good driver up, and get it released. Let's say ray tracing isn't big next year. I think they can just sit there and wait that extra year for it, but it's really going to determine what the initial set of games are from these consoles, I think, to really drive where that's going to go. Because if these consoles already have something, most likely it'll be ported to PC, and they will also have it built on top of those DirectX 12, etc., those APIs. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see, Vulkan, everything else, how that's all implemented. That's my one concern about their, gaming side stuff. If they're coming out with a graphics card in 2021, is how those all stack up and how they'll compete against. Remember, I believe Nvidia is going to come out strong against Intel when Intel releases their GPU, especially on desktop. Nvidia wants to keep that stranglehold. You see that with AMD and how they're releasing other cards while it is. I could see Nvidia doing a major graphics card release around the same time where Intel's doing one to kind of squash it completely. They kind of know where AMD's going, and they kind of keep AMD on a tight leash on when they release something else. So we'll see how they treat Intel, but I don't expect them. I expect them to fight full force just based upon history of them. And then just getting to some other stuff. The 3D stacking, I really hope really takes off. The Intel's AI stuff is interesting, but I really want to see more examples in the real world. Intel talked about not focusing on the 90%, the 30%. I mentioned that a little bit in there with their CEO, and I expect them to be more financially focused going forward, and that could have some ramifications that first off, I'm not thinking of, but ramifications where they're going to be making a little bit more money, but it may be detriment to like an enthusiast like me that really wants to see that, them go after the desktop high-end processors and everything else. They may be focusing on making sure that they just make a lot of money, which is great for their stockholders, but it's not really fun for the enthusiasts. Now, I do support them making money, right? Go for it. But just keep that in mind. And there are issues with 10 nanometer manufacturing. Where's 7 nanometer going? Are they going to be able to still keep up with Taiwanese semiconductor company, maybe exceed them at some point? Where is Samsung going to go in here? How they're going to have other relationships, maybe with other foundries to manufacture some of their products? And I think that's going to be ironed out later in the year, probably second half of the year. We're going to start seeing some formations of how that's going to be sorted out. But I think right now they're still going through the numbers and everything else of where it's going to go, and this could be a real interesting story. But those are some of my thoughts of where 2020 is, what their outlook is going to be. We'll see if I've even come close to being right or anything else. But I think Intel is, they make a lot of money. They're 10 times the size of AMD, basically. I think it is, right? 10, 20. They're really big, right? Overall. And they're, again, I think it's like 10, 20 times. I think it's 10 times the size of Nvidia as well, or a little bit less. And they have the opportunity to have a lot of money to compete, and I think that they have a stranglehold, and they want to keep strangleholds or take over markets where they're not at yet. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what your comments are in the comment section below. What do you hope for that Intel can do this next year? I do want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you for taking the time to help support Gray Overload and helping this channel grow. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to get back into a better schedule. I would like to release like 2 videos a week now. We're getting our daughter back acclimated to being at home, so that's been really great. And then I do want to say God bless, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.